War weary. Generally, the definition to me of war weary means that people who are engaged in war, the death toll, the casualties, the suffering and the misery of war starts accumulating, starts adding up to the point where most people just give up from the horror, from the suffering, from the pain. There's an old saying that wars don't end by winners. Wars end because everybody gets tired of fighting. It's an old saying. It probably goes back to Latin, maybe even Greek. That wars aren't won by killing. Wars are won because everybody gets tired of the suffering and the pain. I had a whole lot of newspapers at one time that had important events. Neil Armstrong landing on the moon, various congressional hearings, when the head of the CIA allegedly committed suicide or died of a heart attack right at his desk just hours before he was going to appear at a congressional hearing. My father threw them all away. I also had a scrapbook of motion pictures that I saw, along with the tickets. I pasted them in the scrapbook. A long time ago, newspapers used to have massive drawings and pictures of the billboards for motion pictures for the cinema, printed in the newspapers, and I would cut them out and paste them in a scrapbook. My father threw that all away. I asked him, why did he do it? He said, well, you can't keep everything. The problem was, those souvenirs and mementos were not for him to destroy. My father and my mother both were very generous. I do not fault them for anything. And I certainly don't hold a grudge. People have been relatively generous to me. And I find people basically good. This is a copy of the Quran. I was working in security for 40 years. And just before the tragedy of 9/11, a Muslim security guard gave me a copy of the Quran in English, of course, theoretically. According to belief in Islam, spoken by the Prophet, that the Quran cannot really be translated. It has to be read in the original language, Arabic. The Prophet probably knew that by translating the Quran, that schisms would develop, just as they did between the Shia and the Sunnis. And there are even other offshoots from Islam, such as the Sufi. The man who gave me a copy of this Quran that you're seeing claimed he came from Egypt. He spoke English fluently. You might even say he spoke the Queen's English or the King's English, because it was impeccable. It was beautiful English. I asked him, how did you learn English so good? And he said, from television. I didn't go any further. He explained why he spoke English so good. He came from Egypt, he said. Yet strangely enough, his first name was Mohammed, and his last name was one of a very important Arabian family. I wondered if possibly he was an informant, but I didn't say anything, because security people are supposed to be well vetted. They're supposed to have background checks, so it wasn't for me to judge. He seemed a nice enough person. Much nicer than most Americans that I've met. Nowadays, most Americans are as queer as whores. I'm serious. You look at a person cross-eyed, you stare at a person for more than 5 minutes, or you set up a movie camera or a video camera, and they freak out. This is a deep pathology, a deep, serious mental illness in America. And the origin of that mental illness I blame on the neocons' ideology, because deep within almost everything the neocons say is paranoia, hypervigilance, and deep suspicion. Because probably, and this I admit is pop psychology, probably they have some deep dark secret that they believe they're hiding. But you know what? For my point of view, I don't care what they do, as long as they don't bother me. But you see, that's the problem with people who are paranoid. They project their emotions out onto the world, and that is exactly and precisely what neocons do. They are a broiling pit, cesspool of fear and anger and suspicion, and they project all that out in almost everything they say and everything they do. They project that out into the world. Security guard that was Muslim used to leave pamphlets around, just as many Christian people do. And one of the pamphlets he left behind was knowledge. Yeah, like a lot of Christians, evangelicals, they would leave pamphlets behind, and so did he. On the opposite side of this pamphlet is a very interesting comment. To me, it's very interesting. I hope you find it interesting also. He who treads the path in search of knowledge, Allah will direct him to tread the path from paths to paradise. And the angels would according welcome to the seekers of knowledge and all that is found in the heavens and the earth. And even the fish in the deep of the water seek forgiveness for the scholar. The superiority of the scholar over the worshipper is that of the full moon at night over the rest of the stars. Verily the scholars are the heirs to the prophet, who leave behind neither dinar nor dirham. They only leave knowledge as their heritage. So whoever acquires it has acquired a huge fortune. The reason I'm shaking so badly is I have some people watching me. Aimless knuckle draggers, I call them. That's not original with me. roaming the neighborhood with nothing to do, no jobs, no motivation, no interest. This, I believe, is what some elitists, some of the establishment call useless eaters. They know how to consume, but they don't know how to produce. You might consider that an insult. But if I added up every insult that I ever had, I would probably be dead. The proper mature thing to do when you're insulted is either to ignore it or to forgive it. That's what a mature adult does. Not hold a grudge. And not to destroy their own soul by constant complaining. Maybe get motivated to do some good in the world without hurting anyone. That's hard for people, but that's what we're here for, some people think, is to mature and to experience the world and to learn. One of the times I remember that I had with my father was to go and see the motion picture, The Song of the South. The Uncle Remus tales are very inspirational. And there was probably a hidden political agenda for disliking the motion picture Song of the South. Because when Uncle Remus sang the song Zippity Doo Dah, my heart burned for love for everybody and everything with a deep, inspiring inspiration. And I sung that song for many years afterward. And I only saw the film once. I only saw Song of the South once. And yet the song was so inspiring, I remembered it word for word.
Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. My, oh my, what a wonderful day. Plenty of sunshine going my way. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. Mr. Bluebird on my shoulder. It's the truth, it's factual, everything is satisfactual.